Welcome back to Enlightened by Grace, where we explore faith, inspiration, and the incredible stories of the Bible. I'm so glad you're here. Let's dive into today's journey through the book of Exodus. The book of Exodus is the story of liberation, covenant, and God's enduring faithfulness. Picking up where Genesis leaves off, it follows the journey of the Israelites from slavery in Egypt to freedom in the wilderness, where they receive God's law and begin to form their identity as His chosen people. Exodus begins with the Israelites thriving in Egypt. But over time, a new Pharaoh rises to power, one who fears their growing numbers. He enslaves them, forcing them into harsh labor, and even orders the death of their newborn sons. However, one child, Moses, is saved by divine providence. Found and raised by Pharaoh's daughter, Moses grows up in the palace but later flees Egypt after killing an Egyptian who was beating a Hebrew slave. Years later, Moses encounters God in the wilderness through a burning bush. Moses was amazed because the bush was not being consumed by the fire. God commands him to return to Egypt and lead his people to freedom. Initially reluctant, Moses obeys and confronts Pharaoh with the message, "Let my people go." When Pharaoh refuses to listen to Moses' demand to let my people go, God sends a series of 10 plagues, turning the Nile to blood, sending frogs, locusts, and darkness, each demonstrating God's power over Egypt's gods. The final plague, the death of the firstborn, leads to the institution of the first Passover, a moment that would become central to Israel's identity. After the final plague, Pharaoh finally relents, and the Israelites leave Egypt in haste, guided by God through a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. But Pharaoh changes his mind and pursues them with his army. At the Red Sea, the Israelites face an impossible situation, trapped between the water and Pharaoh's forces. But God instructs Moses to stretch out his staff, parting the sea so they can cross on dry ground. When Pharaoh's army follows, the waters close in and they are destroyed. This miraculous deliverance becomes the defining moment of God's power and faithfulness. In the wilderness, the Israelites arrive at Mount Sinai, where God establishes His covenant with them. Through Moses, He gives the 10 Commandments, laying out moral and spiritual guidelines for His people. The Israelites also receive instructions for building the tabernacle, a sacred place where God's presence will dwell among them. Despite witnessing God's power, they falter, crafting a golden calf to worship. Yet God, in His mercy, renews the covenant and continues to guide them. Exodus is a story of redemption and relationship. It shows us that God is both just and merciful, delivering His people from bondage and inviting them into a covenant relationship. The journey through the wilderness is a reminder that freedom is not the end goal. Living in God's presence and following His ways is. Historically, Exodus has been an inspiration for countless movements seeking freedom and justice, reminding us of God's faithfulness in the face of oppression. What is most important is to remember that Exodus teaches us that God hears our cries, delivers us from bondage, and calls us to walk in His ways. It's a story of hope, faith, and transformation that continues to inspire and guide us today. Thank you for joining this journey through the book of Exodus. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share for more videos exploring the incredible stories of the Bible.